Let me ask you this. I hope my voice holds out for this thing.
I can fix it.
Union works a lot like that. You've got to constantly be doing things to keep your members engaged. So that union works a lot like that too. But I sort of have an idea myself, and I think a lot of people do. I think the modern conveniences that we have, which probably began with things like the remote control, a cordless telephone set in the house. Look at all the things we have now that provide instant results, instant gratification. It's almost like we've conditioned ourselves to, okay, thanks for that right now. And then, like you said, 2 or 3 weeks later, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Give me
We're
more.
consuming. Give me more. Give me more. Give me more. We're just trying to consume more and more things. And I don't know what that looks like, 25 or 30 years from now. But, when I was a kid, phones were hardwired. There was no cordless phone. There were 3 TV channels, and that's if you had enough tin foil on the tip of the rabbit ears. I remember my grandparents talking about electricity coming through the neighborhood, and when telephone service came through the neighborhood. Oh, and even when I was a kid, you didn't have your own phone line. It was like a 3-party line. You pick it up, and you hear somebody talking. You go, "Ooh, let me screw this thing out and be quiet and listen." But I mean, we've come a long way, but at the same time, a lot of these great things I think have conditioned us to expect more.
I don't think you're wrong.
No, I have hope that, the kitchen table, if somebody's complaining about some bullshit, everybody kind of lets you know, like, hey, Larry over here lost his arm in a car wreck, and you're complaining about a hangnail. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So maybe, because our complaints before on pay, you had numbers to back it up. Like,
sure.
Everybody else is outperforming our pay a lot. And so now if your pay is in the range, even if it's a little low, your argument's not going to be backed by numbers. So hopefully I'm wrong, but maybe the complaints will be, in line. Like, I don't mind a complaint if it's not exaggerated, or if it's like word it well, but not just I want, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, you sound like a 7-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The first word of every sentence is I want this, or can we this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You were talking about the engagement, like having that similar problem with the association. How are we doing as far as participation, like numbers, and where are we in the state?
I think as a state we're doing pretty good, but we could certainly do a lot better. We have quite a few locals. Most of them are smaller locals, and when you think about it, the majority of our cities are not big cities. So the work that they're doing obviously is having a good effect, because with last year's big wins in the North Carolina legislature, it proved what can be done if people will come together and be persistent. That's the key. You got to be persistent. And politics is strange, you're only going to get something out of the people in power, and that's just the way it is, because they control what happens, and you don't want to alienate anybody.
Mm-hmm.
As the IFF has long preached, we don't care about your political affiliation. All we care about is, do you support us? Will you support our issues? And, we made some big wins last year, and we hope to capitalize on more even, in the future. But the wins that we got last year were years in the making. I mean, years in the making. And when I say years in the making, okay, let's go back to how does it begin? You got to find a friend. You got to make friends up there. And everybody's skeptical, obviously, because if you're the legislator, people are always coming to you wanting something. Well, what do you want?
Right.
And why do you want this? So you got to make friends, and there has to be a level of trust there. They have to, obviously, you need them to stay in power if they're helping you, because you don't want to lose that person, and then the person that replaces them, they've got different priorities. It's a tough world up there. But I think we proved last year that we're doing very well, And a lot of the locals that we have, I don't know that they have a high amount of participation, but there's a significant amount statewide. And collectively, I think we did well.
If you could put a ballpark figure on it, this is just for my information. When it comes to the state of North Carolina as a paid service, as it looks like, do you have any idea, or can you ballpark a percentage of that are members of the union in PFFPNC? That might be a crazy question to ask, but I wouldn't begin to even.
I think I've heard, again, speculating some, but I've heard there are somewhere around 10,000 paid firefighters in North Carolina.
Okay.
And I think about 40% of those are members. Now, Scott Mullins may listen to this like, hey, Scott. Scott may listen to this later on and go, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. You got your numbers wrong.
You can drop in the comment section.
Drop in the comment section, Scott. But, that's still not a small amount to laugh at.
Sure.
That's still a significant number of people.
What seems to be me personally, I was a non-affiliated member of the fire service in the paid world for years. I was in the same house as our union president, as our local president here. Mm-hmm. And I would ask questions all the time. And I would ask questions to him like, what is the union doing? Okay, so you want me to pay dues to something. Okay, so let's break it down in terms that I can understand. I pay dues I pay a subscription fee to satellite service. They provide me TV. I'm good with that. I pay you something, you give me a service. That makes sense. So if I give the union this amount of money, what are they going to do for me? Nice. What are they going to do for me?
That overrides my silence. I'm sorry.
What are they going to do for me? And I never got an answer that resonated with me. So, I was unaffiliated for a long time. And then, we had some leadership changes and all this kind of stuff. And I was actually on the way to a funeral in South Carolina. I think, Jeremy, you were with me, you and Brent. And I kind of asked the same question. And they were able to give me an explanation that resonated with me. And I became a member that day. And is it educational aspect that we're missing? Or is it just awareness level? Or is it a combination of all of it? 40%. To me, seems rather low for the benefits that I know that is provided for being a member. 40% seems low to me.
Well, with people retiring, there's constant attrition. You're constantly starting over with a new group of people, many of whom have never had any exposure to it, and they may have not had any exposure to it, but they may have had exposure to people who talk poorly about it.
Sure.
Already you got an uphill battle with those folks. What I have seen is younger people who get involved and just take a chance. They get hooked on it, and they become more involved. They want to do more, especially now when there are so many different things that they can be involved in. Things as simple as rebranding of your logos.
Right.
With social media platforms, they may be the webmaster of a social media platform. There's just so many things that young people can do that they're good at because they've got those skills. They grew up in a world where they never knew anything other than, all these social media platforms.
Sure.
And then they start to see that as they become more involved and work at it, things start to happen. And so they start to see the benefits long term. And gosh, sorry, man.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I know I silenced that thing, but
if it's important, then feel free to get it. And I don't want to interrupt you from something super important. Yeah.
It's my wife.
Yeah. So the young people being involved and getting into that newer generation, that's where we were at. Because I was expressing that I was discouraged in that 40% kind of that number. Just it feels low to me.
If you had the ability to truly educate, like share the real benefit, that number would snap to 80 like overnight if everybody knew. But people don't know, and there's some terrible salesmen out there.
You're right.
Like you're saying, on the other side, like guys that are bad mouthing it from the other way.
Right.
And it's just I don't know what the motive is there, but
yeah, it seems typical for the world though. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
for the society that we live in nowadays, that, you know, bad news catches wildfire way better than a good message.
Yeah.
But hey,
Well, you know, also when you look at things that need to be done, one of the things I think that is a hindrance for us is that most firefighters have a part-time job. Now they're already gone 56 hours a week from their family. They're working that part-time job because they enjoy having that money to be able to do things with their family. It's a sacrifice, but one they feel that is beneficial to the family. Now you're asking them, maybe just for 3 or 4 hours, can you just give me 3 or 4 hours to come to this meeting? And they won't prioritize that because they say, you know, I'll pay my dues. I'll support the organization, but right now I just can't do that. And what I found was that people cycle. So a guy may be very involved, or a gal may be very involved, and then they get married. And then they disappear for a little while, may get more involved, and then they have kids, and they disappear for a while, a long while. And then kids get a little older and start doing their own thing and having their own friends, and then you see them come back up on the radar again. So people cycle. You just have to accept that, and accept that you know, they're doing the best they can, and they'll be there when they can, and make the best use of whatever they have to offer.
do you see that they consistently pay their dues throughout that? They still remain members?
Sure.
Or their level of participation just ebbs and flows?
They just cycle out, in and out, you know, based on what's going on in their life.
Okay.
That seems to be normal everywhere.
I have consistently not been to a meeting ever. So
You do live an hour out of town, you know.
that's an excuse. But
Yeah.
Well,
I'm being involved right now.
Right.
yeah.
There's a small percentage of, I probably represent the small percentage that when stuff happens, stuff goes on in the world, I'll get fired up about something. Like I'll be focused on this or focused on that. And I had a period of time that, like, politics I got focused on it, and then it just made me so mad. And then I was like, I gotta pull back from all of this stuff. I don't think we're a big group, but that's probably like 10% of us that things will come up, and then you just get focused on it, and you're like, you know what, I just need to keep myself distanced from that. And in the last couple of years, finding that balance of, you know, being involved but not getting too involved, you know, but paying attention. It's good to be aware and to know what's going on, and watching this, like the cancer legislation. How amazing was that to see it come together after so long, 5 years?
Yeah, I think
About a 10-year battle.
Yeah.
It was about a 5-year battle just to be in a position where we felt like we were making friends and being heard. Realistically, more like a 7-year.
Yeah.
And when I say battle, I'm not talking about warring with people. You're battling over money, because there's only so much money to go around, and there are lots of great priorities, and you can't necessarily fund them all or fund them to the extent that you would like to. So I don't envy what legislators have to do, or maybe the agony that some of them may feel over the decisions that they have to make. But at the end of the day, we were consistent. We showed up. We showed up. We showed up. We supported. We showed up. And they came through for us. You know, we'll have to give credit where it's due. And you know, they did what they said they would do when they got in a position to do it.
That's big.
Yeah, that was massive.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about our cancer legislation is, although the depth of the legislation is not very deep, now I'll talk about that in a second, the width of that legislation is incredible. In fact, it should be the envy of the entire United States, because our legislation encompasses all cancers. All cancers. The depth of that legislation is only $25,000 per diagnosis. And then, of course, you get some other monies for medical bills, $12,000. So we know there's not a lot of money out there when you look at the depth of it. But let me ask you this. if they said there's $10 million available if you have this diagnosis, but you don't have that diagnosis, you have a different diagnosis. You can't get $1, much more the $10 million that they're offering for it. So I would rather see what we've got now. The depth is a little more shallow than we would like, but the width is so wide, many will be able to benefit. Whereas in other states, and even what we thought we were probably going to wind up with, it would be a narrow band of people that would benefit. So that to me is something that should be the envy of the United States. We can always work on the depth, as money becomes available. It's getting people to agree of what are we going to cover? What are we going to allow? The depth can come later.
Yeah, I was about to say when we were talking with Brian and Sky about it, and they were kind of explaining it the same way that you were as far as what it actually covers, and then the money side. I like your depth and width part, that analogy. That makes sense for dumb people like me, but that makes a lot of sense. But it seems like the foundation, there's a good foundation there, and we can always work on building on top of the structure. So as far as your depth goes, we can always work on extending that amount of money that's going to be allotted. But it sounds like the foundation, man, we're solid.
I think so. No, it's not legislated as a codified law. It's a budget item.
Right. Does that mean they'll be able to not have it if they choose to in the future?
If they choose not to, yeah.
We need to fix that.
That's right. That's right. And recently I was following a post thread on Representative John Bell's page, and I was congratulating him on something. And I said, yeah, now we just need to get back to making this cancer legislation permanent. And, of course, he knows what I'm talking about because he was a big part of getting this for us. But, yeah, that's our next big step, I think, is that we've got to figure out how to make it permanent. So we got 2 years. It's a pilot program.
Sure.
And already people are cashing in on this, and I shouldn't say cashing in like it's a great thing. Listen,
Sure.
Nobody wants $1 of this money.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to collect any money. In fact, I met the first guy who applied for it. Trying to remember the details. I just recently met him a couple of weeks ago, but he was a volunteer firefighter. And when I met him, I heard that from some of the other people that I was at a motorcycle rally organization with the Red Knights, and this guy is a North Carolina Red Knight, and they had said he had cancer. And I went up to him and said, "Hey, did you get diagnosed this year?" And he's like, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I want to tell you something. I knew he was a volunteer firefighter. I mean, I figured he might not know." Well, in fact, not only did he know, he was the first person to make the application. He said the Office of State Fire Marshal said, "Well, you're the first one."
Wow.
So word is getting out there, and more people are starting to apply for that. And again, nobody wants a nickel of that money, but thank God it's there to help them out.
Mm-hmm. Would I be naive to think that, so the way it would expire or we'd lose it is somebody would value another program more and then want to take this budget money and put it, like, it seems like that would be a hard grab to go. It's like, hey, let's take away this cancer protection.
Well, I'll let Keith go first, but I have an opinion on that as well.
Right.
Well, politics are strange. I just don't believe that the people that have supported us would stand for that. And that's not to say a legislative body couldn't vote that way, but those people that supported us, I don't ever see them taking a step backwards on this. In fact, when we have presented to them in the past, some were, pretty emotional. We had family members. We've had firefighters there who actually had cancer. We've had firefighters that were friends of other firefighters that died of cancer. It gets very emotional sometimes. We presented to them, and what we're saying is, here's a person, here's a family in need. Well, the next time we have to go and talk with these legislators and committees, we'll be able to bring people in or come in with stories about, remember what you did for us?
Right.
Well, let me tell you how it's impacted a family. Let me tell you what it's done for this person. We'll be able to come in with stories of success. Because when you're coming in asking for something this magnitude, you know what it's going to look like, down the road.
Mm-hmm.
You think you do, but now we will be able to come in with success stories where, people did benefit from this benefit. And I think that's going to be a big help to us to continue having their support.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's right in line with how I was going to say. It seems like it'd be a hard grab unless we lay in complacency. We got it passed, so we're going to get our foot off the gas and just kind of let this, we'll be happy with what we have and not what we talked about earlier, not be wanting more. Then it seems like it would be a very easy grab. It's just not, it's not in the forefront of their thinking and all that kind of stuff. But however, if you keep the pressure on and keep these good testimonies and good people coming forth who the benefit has served them well, seems like it would make it harder.
Well, I think it's important to keep these people in office that helped us because I don't know what they had to do to wheel and deal to make this possible. I believe I heard a story that Speaker Moore was asked after the caucus at the end of session where they were discussing what was going to move forward. What did you have to give up to get this agreed upon for the agenda? He said, "You don't even want to know." So I don't know. I don't know how true that story is, but at the end of the day, these folks have priorities, and they have to decide, what is most important. And everybody's got cards, and they're playing cards back and forth. I'll give you this, you give me this. I have priorities too, and it's a give and take. So the people that helped us get this, I'm sure they probably sacrificed some other things that they would have liked because they felt like this was the right thing to do for us. So we need to do what we can to support them too.
Mm-hmm. If you're running for office and rerunning, having a track record, like having some, like we did this and we helped, or I voted for this and that, this has got to be a great one. Like I'm motivated to support, and even if I wasn't related to the fire service, like hearing that it was a something they supported that didn't have a corporate kickback or something slimy, like this is just good. That seems like an amazing thing that, again, if people just knew, like, hey, this guy's a good guy, or this, whatever politician, like it's a good resume builder. That's what I'm looking for.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, at the end of the day, we could talk politics all we want, but to be clear, we don't care about your personal politics as a candidate. All we care about is firefighter issues and duty sports. And because if we started to get into, well, this particular social issue, that social, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We start to pull away from what we say we stood for. We're standing for firefighter issues because all firefighters have different social issues that they may want to support. So we just can't get into that. And the IFF has set a very good track record of saying, nope, if it's not a firefighter issue, we're not going down that road. If it's your personal issue, fine. One of the last freedoms you have in America is to go in the voting booth, pull the curtain, and vote how you want. They tell you how fast to drive. Hell, they even tell you to turn on your windshield wipers when it's raining. you know, lights and windshield wipers on when raining, or that's what the signs say when you come into the state, right? But the last freedom you really have is how you vote. So if you don't want to vote how the association is saying you should vote to support firefighter issues, that's fine. No hard feelings. But at the end of the day, we're going to continue to pursue those firefighter issues or the candidates that will support those firefighter issues. Right. And listen, they're across both sides of the aisle. And a lot of people don't think that. They think that unions in particular are very headstrong Democrat. Well, again, using the IFF as a model, it's very clearly no. We support people who support us, and they come from both sides of the aisle, including independents.
I like that for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the idea of choosing a party over a person. I don't, and that's not something I can get on board with. But yeah, it's a hard justification for folks if you care about the fire service and you're all in on the fire service and want the betterment of the fire service, then it seems silly not to support the candidate that is for the fire service. I understand that they're probably the fire service, just in the paid service world, it is a small part of our life. It's big relatively, but it's small in a 24-hour period in our entire life. It's just a certain percentage of it. There's a lot of other things that go on that politics affect: home life, other rights, things like that. I guess the difficult part would be if the candidate that the IFF is supporting is all in on fire service, but yet they're all out on a different one that you feel some sort of way about, then you come to this fork in the road. That seems like it would be difficult, but
that's where that freedom he's talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Pull the curtain and vote.
do you?
Yeah.
And no hard feelings.
I think that's a lost or maybe a misconception that there's not going to be any hard feelings, or that you're going to be shunned, or really, truly, and honestly, who's going to know anyway?
Right.
Hopefully, that's the way it's supposed to be. But I don't know. The IFF, and especially here in North Carolina with the PFFPNC, they've come leaps and bounds, and they're huge, and we pump them on this show big time, all the time, always have, and that's because we believe in the message that they're doing. What other things you're spearheading? Some pretty nifty stuff for your big city.
Well, so when I took this position about 2 years ago, which by the way is it was called the safety officer position originally. I was asked to take that by the interim chief at that time, and I was a little unsure because he had asked me to go in a little different direction than the previous people who had held that position, a direction that was more in line with actual health and safety stuff. And I say I was a little unsure because I didn't have any role models ahead of me to, look back over the files and see what they were doing. Now, granted, I had some great people that were ahead of me that would have been phenomenal at the job that I have now. And unfortunately, they just weren't doing that type of work at the time. You can only do what the boss allows you to do,
Sure.
Right? So the boss at that time just didn't have them doing it. And then we get a new fire chief who coincidentally was a safety officer in the previous department that he came from, large department, about 6 times our size. And he's really been a mentor for me to help build this program. So what happened was we wound up getting 3 safety officers. We created a whole new division, which I had that division up, the Health and Safety Compliance Division. And I set some goals for myself. He set some goals for me, some things he wanted me to do. And I was really amazed at how fast I was able to get some of them done in spite of being the guy who everybody had to call when there was a COVID issue. And then also do all that contact tracing and all that stuff. I amassed so many off-duty hours. I would leave work and go home. I'd be home by 3:30 or so. I'd leave a little bit early, try to beat traffic, open my laptop, and I would be there until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Seems overwhelming.
It really was. It really was. But at the end of the day, I knew there was no one else to do it. As you guys know, we all went to work, and we have to go see sick people when a lot of people were able to shelter in place. Now, granted, there were a lot of other police that were firefighters. We all like to have clean water. There were public utilities people, equipment operators. There's lots of people that came to work, but quite a few people were able to shelter at home. So I'm working all these hours. I'm trying to do all these things, coming to work every day, and I've researched all I can about this cancer screening stuff. And I find out that in North Carolina, there's an organization. Am I allowed to say the organization name on here?
Say whatever you want.
Yeah. So most people have heard of LifeScan. And from my research, I found that LifeScan is run by nurse practitioners. And North Carolina is one of a few states, actually about half the states, where nurse practitioners are not allowed to practice autonomously. They have to have the supervision of an MD or maybe an OD, either one. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. They're not allowed to practice here. What am I going to do? So I'm continuing to research. Now, everything that I've done happened over several months because, I mean, I can only work on things for so long. So it took me a long time. This is a true story. I got to the point where I had done all I could do. And I leaned back in my chair at my desk and I said, Lord, I don't know what else to do. I know this is something that needs to happen. I know there's this company, but they can't do business here. And I don't know what to do. You know, we're seeing cancer cases. We're working on cancer at the legislature. I think it was about 2 or 3 days later, my phone rings. And a fellow introduces himself and starts telling me about cancer screening and he'd like to offer. And I'm like, what? Okay, go on, you know. And we talked more. And the end result was he was telling me about a program that they already run in Jacksonville, Florida. And so he tells me all these things, and I'm thinking, okay, I made some notes. I got friends in Jacksonville. I called the union president in Jacksonville, Florida, who put me in touch with a captain there at the department who coincidentally is a nurse practitioner. And she is one of their doctors for the department. Yeah, she provides medical care for the firefighters. Yeah.
Jeremy's mind's blown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So she starts telling me all about the program. It's legit. So I go back to this guy, and the name of the company that I'm working with is Siemens. And Siemens is a manufacturer of a lot of imaging type machines, as well as, you know, home breakers and breaker boxes and electrical stuff. So Siemens has a huge presence here in the southern part of the United States. But coincidentally, this group that does this is right in my back door in Morrisville, just a few miles up the road from my office. They call themselves Siemens Healthineers. I guess that's engineering in the health industry. So anyway, I get him to come to my office. He sits down with me and the fire chief, and we have a really good discussion. And then I create a list of questions based on all that I've learned so far, and we get the questions answered, and we do some pricing and that type of thing. If this were a 10-step program, I would say I'm somewhere around step 8. Now, in 2 hours at the most, I believe I could get you to where I am in 2 hours at the most. But I spent months getting from step 1 to step 8. The first step was, well, where do I start? Who do I call? What am I even looking for? I don't know anybody. But I believe in 2 hours I could get people to about step 8. Now, what is step 8? I have already gotten approval from my city for next year's budget for the money to do 200 scans per year. So we're going to start out doing this in thirds. And matter of fact, first day next month, our sign-up sheet will go live. We're going to allow everybody to sign up. You know, 600 folks. We're going to take the first 200. We're going to base it on first priority is fire investigators. And then, and because they have a 14% higher risk above and beyond the firefighters' increased risk. So the fire investigators, and then we're going to go by years of service. And then after years of service, it will be by age. So it'll start with investigators, total years of service, and then whoever's the oldest with those total years of service. And we'll work our way down until we get 200 people. The rest of the list, we'll push them out to next year. Now, if we have people that need a medically indicated scan and we've hit our 200 mark, we're going to pay for that out of another line item somewhere. We're going to get them the scan. But in a very short time, I could get people to where they need to be to make a presentation to their city to get the funding to do the scans. And I don't mind telling you. So I've got $62,500. That is a drop in the bucket for the fire department's budget, much more the city's overall budget. But if we can identify these cancers early on and get these people treatment early. The city's self-insured.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all about saving healthcare costs, right? Everything we do, we need to be saving healthcare costs because, those increases get passed on to us in insurance premium increases, right? So the more we can save the city on that, the less we pay in insurance premiums for the family plans and that type of thing. So we want to be able to identify these early in order to help do that. But more importantly, so that the people get the care they need before they get to a level 3 or stage 3 or stage 4 type cancer. So the benefit is to the person, but the city also sees as a benefit to them. So, obviously the benefit to the person is far more important. But in order to be able to convince people to give you the money and the resources that you need, you got to be able to show some value in that too. So we hope to be doing the scans by August, hopefully by August 1st. I'll have the money July 1st.
Was this a goal that you had set for yourself, or was this a goal that your superiors kind of tasked you with, this whole program?
Right. So, you talking about the division or the cancer screening?
You said kind of at the beginning when you took the position, you had set some goals for yourself,
right.
And then your superiors had kind of set some goals for you as well. Was this program one that you set, or was it one that they tasked you with?
So the division itself was a goal from my superior, from my fire chief. I work direct for the fire chief. He is my direct boss. So the division itself, the health and safety compliance division, was his overall goal. And he, of course, is the one that helped get me the funding to have a shift safety officer for all 3 shifts. So that was, and that's sort of the parent program for everything that I do at work. Now, obviously, he wanted me to pursue the cancer screening because this is something he was accustomed to in the department that he came from. So I'm thinking, okay, I can make that happen. Mm-hmm. And then the more I dig, the more roadblocks I run into. So, my goal, I'm pretty strong-willed, was I'm going to make this happen one way or another. But I'll tell you, the day I sat in my chair and I leaned back, I was defeated. I really was. I had come to the conclusion that I don't think I'm going to be able to make this happen. I don't think anybody's going to be able to make this happen. And I was just down. And like I said, 2 to 3 days later, my phone rang, and I guess the Lord just answered that prayer. And it wasn't a very good one, I can promise you that. But it was just a prayer of exasperation. Now, I've got a son in the fire department, so I got a lot of skin in the game, a little more skin than most people do. I mean, not to say that there are lots of fathers, sons, daughters in volunteer fire service, but in the paid fire service, it's not common you meet somebody every day that has a son in there. Well, this is my last opportunity to do things that is going to help or have an effect on not just my son, but there are other people at the fire department that I love. I've got good friends that, I love them to pieces. If something happened to them, it'd be like losing a family member.
Absolutely.
So, I want to do all I can to make things as good as I can for them. This is my last opportunity. With almost 36 years on the department, so what? I make somebody mad. Okay? I don't mind asking the hard questions. I don't mind being the guy that's that yappy dog that will not go away. I don't mind being that person. At the end of the day, like I said, what am I protecting? I don't have anything to protect. So, I think I'm in a good position to do it. I know I'm a persistent person, and so I'm pretty proud of the things that I've got done so far. In the future, obviously we want to keep these programs going, but as we learn more about cancer and cancer prevention measures, I see more things on the horizon. Take a step back prior to all this cancer screening stuff. We implemented a cancer policy, well, not a policy, but a portion of our fire ground procedure, gross decon on scene.
Yep.
We require that. You don't go, when you come out of the fire, you don't go to rehab without deconning. And everybody's got plum events in their stations. We don't allow PPE, dirty PPE in the living areas. The new stations, they have positive pressure ventilated gear rooms. There's just so many things that we're doing now that weren't even thought of when I first came to the fire service. It's not the bad thing about stuff that we do as firefighters is that there's not always an instant consequence. For example, if I lay my hand on the stove as a child and I've been told don't do that, well, there's an instant consequence. And I'm going to learn, that's why they told me not to do that. That hurts pretty bad. The things that we do as firefighters, you know, the one of the slogans that came out of the U.S. Fire Service, take no smoke. The things that we do as firefighters that don't have immediate consequences. You're doing a 360 around a building. Smoke is banked down in the yard. Well, you don't have your SCBA locked in. As you walk around, you're inhaling that stuff, right? You know, I've seen people go in on pot on the stove and don't lock in. Why are we saving air? You know, we've got plenty of air. And if we don't have any more on truck, we got places where you can go get it, or we got a truck that can bring it to us. So it's the chronic exposure that has that long-term effect. And I think the bottom line is if researchers that are spending a lot, that are getting a lot of money in grants to research this stuff, if they knew the answers of exactly where it was coming from, we would know it by now. Yeah. But we don't know.
I have a question. It's going to make me sound like an asshole, so I'll go put that out there. It's a debate that happens a lot in the decon before you go to rehab or recycle. So how is that supposed to go? What's the proper way so that you don't end up, so you've gone through your bottle and you need to go recycle. If you go by decon and somebody hoses you down head to toe, that seems like it wouldn't help you once you get your fresh bottle, get a bottle of water, now you're soaking wet. So how should we be doing this?
So the way we have implemented this is, of course, if we go through 2 bottles, you got to go to rehab. That's the rule. But you don't go to rehab without going to decon first. If I were personally coming out for a fresh bottle, I'm not going to decon because I'm not going to rehab.
Okay, I agree. I've been wagged at before for that, but I thought I was doing it right, so I was just looking for that clarification.
Do you know if your department's policy on decon came from, did it originate with you or did y'all piggyback off somebody else's policy? You can say you don't know.
So I tell you, I've worked on so many things.
Sure.
There have been so many days that, and particularly when my wife was working a different job, she worked in the evening hours. A lot of times I would just stay at work and I'd work 12, 13-hour days. COVID was still going on, you know.
Yeah.
Why leave? I mean, I'm just right here with my laptop. I don't remember the name, but I want to say it was a YouTube video that was put out by a small department somewhere.
Okay.
And it was in North Carolina, as I recall. And we copied from the YouTube video.
Okay.
And it had a catchy name on that video. I just can't think of what it was right now.
Yeah. I'm not by any means saying that me or people like me don't want to decon. We want to do it right. Like, I don't want anybody to get cancer. Right. I don't want my crew to get, I just want to do it right. And if making my firefighter soaking wet and then he's got to carry, all the extra water, like all the weight, and if the situation does get hot, now we've got steam. So I just want to do it right.
Right. You guys have second set of turnout gear? That's another thing we implemented years ago.
Yeah, we do.
Very, very large department in this state. I was shocked to find out, I think it was maybe 7-8 years ago, something like that they had just got their second set of gear.
Yeah.
I was shocked. And I was appreciative at the same time because we've had 2 sets of gear for most of my career. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. So we're able to go back. And by the way, we've got extractors and dryers in all the stations.
Sure.
So we're able to go back and immediately strip that gear and get the cleaning process going and also get our backup gear out. Here's another thing too. So you return from the fire. Well, who returns from the fire? Who should leave that fire first? Who should be the first company to be relieved?
The first company in my opinion, should be the first company that leaves.
Right. Why though?
They did the initial attack, so they got exposed to the most stuff, and they put out probably statistically they burnt the most calories. Right. So get them cleaned up. But it's never that way. It's always first in, last out. Right.
It seems to be that way, right? Whenever I had command of a fire, I always grabbed those first companies that went in when the smoke particulates were, at their highest level. Grabbed the captain and said, "Hey, I'm gonna get you out of here. I want you to go back to the station. I want you to park the truck and make sure everybody gets a shower. I want you to decon. Don't worry about the truck. Well, we got to get the truck back in service." So this is a cultural thing, and we have to be aware that sometimes cultures are so ingrained that you could tell somebody to do something, but they revert back to what is the cultural norm. I told them, I said, "I want you to go back. I want you to make sure everybody decons and then get the truck in service." I remember one time, great guy, very, very good captain. I'd eventually gone back to the station, and the truck was immaculate. And I saw one of the guys that had soot on his face, and I spoke to the captain, and I said, "I thought I told you to go back and make sure everybody got a shower." He said, "Well, it's like 93 degrees out here and high humidity. The guys didn't want to have to take a shower twice because they knew they were going to get out here and get all sweaty."
That sounds just like something I'd say.
I said, "Captain, I sent you back for a reason." I said, "First, I'm going to explain it to you." So I explained it to him, and I said, "Don't ever let that happen again. You are the boss. I've got to win you over. I've got to get you to understand this. And when you understand it, they'll follow your lead. They may not like it. I mean, I get it. It's maybe an inconvenience of some sort. And then there are some who say, well, we got to get back in service to catch that next call. If I sat your wife and your children and your parents down and I said, okay, let me tell you about firefighter so-and-so. This is what he does. This is how he gets exposed. And this is what he should do, but that's not what he did. He did these things. I wonder what their responses would be. I'm sending you to work as your spouse, and you're potentially coming home not in the same shape that you left. Oh, there may not be an immediate consequence, but down the road,
10
there
years
may be.
from now.
Yeah, there may be a consequence, but you don't see it happening. Just like we don't see ourselves getting older. I look in the mirror and I didn't see myself aging, but good God, my hair's turning gray, falling out. I mean, it just happens,
You look great.
Yeah. Watch that guy.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, to your point, if the captain does it and sets that example, and if the motive's known, like, why are we doing this? Why am I going to have to take 2 showers? Well, it's trying to keep you from getting cancer.
The first shower is not because you stink.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, look, full disclosure, I'm not the guy up here saying, you got to do so-and-so. You got to. No, I'm not that guy. I'll tell you who I am. I'm the guy who was part of an era that helped perpetuate the really bad culture that causes you to think the way you do. Here's a perfect example. I'm new. We get on an apparatus that has an open cab. It may or may not have safety belts or safety bars. And I'm standing up, putting my gear on while the truck's going down the road. I'm doing everything today that we would say don't ever do, right? We get to the fire. I pull a line, and I run up to this big steel box that everybody threw their trash in. Do I have on an air pack?
Probably not.
No. Because why? Don't waste the air. Because if we waste the air, we got to get the chief to bring us a bottle out here and all this stuff, right? Deep breath. And I go into the dumpster. And I'm working the nozzle, holding my breath, and doing this and that. I'm doing it, Stephen, right? Yeah, all for some trash. Some stuff that people threw away. I helped perpetuate the culture that causes people to think the way they do. But, I've seen the light. And I've seen the light personally, but I've been blessed that God has not taken my life with cancer. I've watched him take so many people at young ages. What did they do? Why them? Why not me? I don't know. But I've seen it happen. That happened right in front of my eyes. And I think to myself, I got to do different. I got to start telling people, this is not how you do things. Now, granted, we're not doing that kind of crazy stuff anymore, but we're doing other things that may potentially be contributing to these cases of cancer. And when I say may, again, clarify, if the researchers who are studying this knew what it was, we wouldn't say may. We'd say we are doing this and this is what's causing it. We don't know that. We don't know what's causing it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like our building construction and our materials that we're using in manufacturing and all that kind of stuff are becoming less cancer free. It seems like they're just getting worse. So it just seems like we should probably just be bettering our tactics to help combat it versus, just kind of playing stuck in the mud and, looking for answers from other things.
I'll give you another example of something that we changed quickly when I took this position. We had a policy that allowed for cool overhaul. Now, do y'all have cool overhaul? If not, I'll explain what ours is.
I think I know what you're talking about. I've never heard it phrased that way, but I know what you're talking about.
So it's the use of an APR with chemical cartridges, right?
Yep.
Well, pretty quickly, that was one of the first things I jumped on. And now we require SCBA throughout all phases of the fire. I put out an email to all chief officers in the department because the policy said the incident commander has the authority to downgrade to cool overhaul. I asked them, I want to know your opinion. I need feedback from every single person on this. Do you support having cool overhaul? Do you want to continue this in the policy? Is this something that you believe is useful to us and that you will, sign off on? Because it's their decision. Every single one of them, without exception, said absolutely not, get rid of it. That tells me that of the 26 chief officers in the department, not one single one of those chiefs wanted to be the guy or gal who said, yeah, let's do cool overhaul, and then find out later on down the road, somebody's
hurting people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You remember Scott? It's been, God, I don't know how many series of air packs it's been now, but they came out with that little, it was like a survival cartridge. It was a thing that you could clip in if you ran out of air, and it was supposed to be able to get you, out in the instance that you ran out of air. We were allowed to start doing overhaul in those. So, you could leave your mask on, but you clip in with that. So it was kind of the same thing. The department, we already had these little things that nobody ever used, and they weren't going to go out and buy filters and masks for everybody else. So they were just like, clip that in, and you'll be good. You don't have to breathe air.
Right,
so,
right.
Kind of silly as well, but right on the same line as what you were just talking about. But that didn't last long either. So,
well, it's a right thing to do.
Sure.
Is it convenient? Is it comfortable? Of course not. Your field of vision is limited. It's hot. You're in there with a lot of heavy tools, and you're doing overhaul. Yeah, it's not comfortable. But again, I can only make it so comfortable for you without compromising your safety. And at the end of the day, I need to be able to put my head on my pillow at night to know that the things that I did are protecting your family. Because there are a lot of firefighters who I think have that mentality of, well, if it's me, then that's fine. I made that choice. Yeah, but your wife didn't make that choice. Your husband didn't make that choice. Your children didn't make that choice.
Right.
They don't want to lose you. So,
yeah, that comfort thing, it seems. When I was going through rookie school, we were taught to be comfortable being uncomfortable. This career was uncomfortable. So
we're not teaching that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the comfort part is a silly argument when it comes to being comfortable. I mean, you go in a burning building or anything like that, it's not comfortable ever. And then, I mean, on the mental side of things, when you're doing, you get a bad car wreck or you do something like that, it's not physical, but it's mentally uncomfortable. You don't want to be there. It's just it's a bad feeling. So comfort's a silly excuse as far as, I'm not going to wear my mask because it's not comfortable. That's silly. Yeah. Silly excuse. What did these go?
I was going to say, when I learned about the benzenes, the number going up during the overhaul phase, that was like kind of a light switch for me. And if you think about it, there's no heroic videos out there of dudes doing overhaul without a mask on.
That's right.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no good trade-off.
Everybody cuts the camera off when the fire goes out.
Yeah. So, yeah. The benzene number thing turned me. I was like, okay.
Well, hydrogen cyanide is another one that is present at most fires. And coincidentally, we did some studies on this years ago when we were getting hydrogen cyanide monitors. We found that Class A combustibles produced about more hydrogen cyanide than did synthetics, which is a little concerning because a person would think the synthetic would be worse. I need to protect myself more around that. No. But we've taken the hydrogen cyanide monitors off the trucks and said, we're not going to monitor for it anymore. There's no need to. We're going to wear our SCBAs. So,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a good approach. Mm-hmm. These screening processes, is it a machine that you get in and it scans your body like at the airport and it looks for cancer, or is it labs, blood work labs? I understand that Siemens is a equipment manufacturer, but what are they providing? I mean, what is it that they're producing that has your interest and that we should be using more of?
So it's sonography.
Okay.
And the fees that we have worked out is based on what will we need to do the scan. To do the scan, this is what you need. You need a doctor who says, I order the scan. You can't do anything in North Carolina without a doctor's
like an
order.
MRI.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And there's lots of reasons for that. One of those I want to say is whenever you order something, you own it at that point. If there is something that needs following up on, and this is to ensure that nobody falls through the cracks. Mm-hmm. So that's why they have to be involved. So a doctor's order says, we order this scan. We have a medical director at our employee health center. So, and we have a PA. The medical director is an MD. So either one of those can write the order. So we've got the ability to get the order. Now, you got to have a place to do it. So the equipment is portable, and it can be in an area the size of a small office, really. So the equipment's portable. You got to have you got to have a table and all the little things kind of comes with the equipment, right? You got to have a sonographer. You got to have a person who can do the scan and make the reports and all that. Then you got to have a radiologist. Somebody's got to read the scan. And then you got to have a way to store the medical record. And
data.
Yeah. And of course, at the same time, it goes to storage. It gets sent back to the person who ordered the scan in case there's a need for follow-up. So you've got medical doctor writing the order. You've got the equipment. You've got the sonographer. You've got the radiologist, and then you've got the repository for the information, and then the follow-up.
A hospital. You need a hospital.
When you go down when you get your 200 applicants, is it just submitted with like their annual physical stuff? Like, okay, it's Steve's turn to go get his scan done. So when he gets his annual physical, that paper that reminds the doctor, if you will, to say, okay, I need to order a scan for him. Is that how that's done, or is it something completely different? You understand kind of where my brain's going? So
I'm going to send them a list
of
everyone based on the way we sorted it. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the fire investigators will go first, and then the years and age. So once that person comes in for their physical, they will, we need to get this person scanned. Okay. Now, we're already doing physicals this year. They're already underway. Sure. They've got to be done for next year's insurance purposes, right? This year's going to be a little different. So we've got to circle back to these people. So by the time we get done running through the group of people that have already had their physicals this year, 2023 will roll around. We'll start physicals all over again. And then those people, I hope we can make it part of their physical all in one trip. So,
is this included in the physicals that we do for insurance or the ones we do for our fit for duty, like our NFPA physicals?
NFPA physical.
Okay, so is that two separate things for y'all? Or is that all in one?
It's all in one.
Okay, for us, it's two separate things. Like I have to get blood work done every year for my insurance, and then I have my normal NFPA physical. It's done by two completely different organizations.
Right.
I'm just trying to think of how this would work. How this would work here. Is it, just like I mentioned, is it you get the names, you send them to whoever does your physicals, and they're like, oh, okay, I need to order it. And then in 2 years, their name recycles, or in 3 years, however the system works out. And that's how it goes.
So we haven't, the doctors in our health center, they haven't actually written the protocol for how often we're going to do this.
Okay.
We've got time to work. They're busy doing physicals right now. We've got plenty of time to work on that. What we're doing is baseline right now, and for the next 3 years, it'll be considered baseline. If you receive something in your lab work, or maybe something was, palpated, and they said, "Oh, there's that don't feel right." If something is medically indicated, we're going to give them a scan too,
Sure.
regardless of whether they just had one last year or not. Once they write the protocols, and again, they're talking with their peer down in Jacksonville, Florida, the fire captain down there who's also the nurse practitioner. They're going to come up with the protocols for how often, whether it be a certain age or a certain number of years on the job. It's really not as often as you think it might be once you've established the baseline scan, but that is something that we still have to, or they still have to work through. I think, like I said, the first year, this year, it's going to be a little different because people are already getting their physicals.
Sure.
Next year, I think, is going to be more representative of what it's going to look like from here on moving forward. We may even get to a point in year 4 or 5 where we're just doing new recruits, and that may be the majority of the people that we're scanning.
Good.
I was wondering if the protocol will end up, I guess somebody knows, but it would be related to the outcome of your scan. So in other words, like you can pass a class with a 71 or a 100. So if somebody gets a scan and they're like, yeah, that everything looks fine, but it doesn't look as good as maybe it could. So maybe that person gets another one within the year, then somebody else, come back in 5 years.
So I think it's a black and white issue. Either something looks sinister or it doesn't.
I got you.
And
Yes
if
or
it
no?
does, then if the radiologist singles out some area, again, this is cavity and organ scanning.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And your body's divided in 3 different areas, from the head to to abdomen. So if something did look sinister, that's where that follow-up becomes important. But either they see it or they don't.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Is Raleigh the only department that's doing this in the state right now?
I suspect we're the only ones doing it because even the guy I'm talking to is not talking to anybody else. But as I told him, if you can get our department up and running with this, just like Jacksonville is sort of a model for us,
Sure.
we can be a model for other departments here in North Carolina. And again, I'm telling you, in 2 hours, I believe I can answer all a person's questions and get them to the step where you don't have the money, but you're at the step where you need to request the money.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Circling back to the IAFF, are they planning to take a role in any of this? Or is
No,
Okay.
this is all department driven because, of course, the city's paying for it.
Sure.
It's just going to be another part of our physical. I don't believe there's anything in NFPA 1582 about scans. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
This is just something above and beyond to, again, like I said, provide better health care for the employee, and also to provide some value to the city for keeping our employees healthy and by finding things early. I'll tell you this too. I totally forgot this. I even looked into cancer sniffing dogs.
What?
Yeah.
We had, maybe I shouldn't. We had some sniffing dogs around our buildings. They weren't for cancer.
Yeah, I did. I called the union president of Chicago and one other big city. It might have been Boston, but it was a Chicago guy that I talked to about these dogs. He was just very open about it. And he put me in touch with the dog handler guy. He explained to me how they do it, and it was going to be like $15 a person or something like that. I was a union president at that time. I was trying to do that through the union. But anyway, long story short, this has been something that's been on my radar long before I took this position.
I would love to talk with that person.
What is their does he actually know the percentages of hits to misses on a cancer
rate.
Sniffing dog?
Yeah.
So the way they do it is it's very, very simple. You get a Ziploc bag that has I don't believe it's an N95. It may just be a dust mask, but there's a mask, and it's in another Ziploc bag. Take that mask out, put it on, and I believe you wear it for 7 minutes. Not, don't try to control your breathing, but you want to inhale and you want to fully exhale to push air against the mask media, right? 7 minutes, I believe, was the time. You put it in a smaller bag, zip it up, put it in the larger bag, zip it up, mail it back to the guy. So I've never done any real dog training, but I've been involved in a little bit. But everything with the animals is all about it's all a trick, right? It's all about a treat, yeah? So what they do is they have this like long board looking thing that has a hole in it more or less, and he puts known samples of this breath from a person who has had a certain type of cancer that's positively diagnosed. Like there are lots of different cancers, but each one of those is labeled as this is this cancer, this is this cancer. So he'll put these things under there, and the dogs will come along and they'll see if they can match your mask to any of his known samples. And when the dog does, I think he said the dog sits down or something like that.
That's usually what a hit indicates, yeah.
Yeah. So one dog hits, right? He runs, this guy said he ran a 4-dog program. And he said when one dog hits, he runs another dog through it. Now, I'll take that back. First, he runs 2 dogs, and if neither dog hits, it's clean. But if one dog hits, he runs all 4 dogs. So you've either got 25, 50, 75, or 100% response from that dog.
Yeah, but I wonder what
I have so many
the
questions.
positive correlation, like if it actually ended up being a cancer diagnosis, like what his hit to like an actual positive cancer diagnosis by a physician were, like what his success rates were.
Now, I don't know. He never gave me any data on that.
Okay.
Sounds like witchcraft.
But he did tell me that,
dogs can
the guy in
smell
Chicago,
a lot.
he was all over it. So the dog trainer guy said that many times that he had had people that they had reached back to and said, hey, you need to go have your talk to your doctor about this. And many of them, of course, they call junk science on it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, 6-8 months later down the road, something turned up. And he said that happened, several times. But I don't have any numbers or anything like that.
Right. I'm not doubting. I'm just very skeptical.
Yeah.
So what if I just got done eating a mouthful of Slim Jim? Then I send my mask in. The dog's like, smells right.
Yeah, the pig had cancer. You ate it.
So I was watching this. When my kids and I, we go to the hunting club and hunt, there's very few TV channels we can pick up, but there's always this true crime channel. And we call it Who Killed Who, because every show on there is about somebody killing somebody, right?
Yeah.
I watched this show a couple of weeks ago about a fella who they really just couldn't pin it on him. They managed to get his scent by vacuuming a car that they knew he had sat in into a filter. And then they showed that scent to that dog, and they took that dog to places where they thought he had been, and that dog walked a trail and went exactly where they thought, but they couldn't prove. They even did that with the victim. The victim's trail had been, it was like a week old. It had been rained on. It covered sidewalks, asphalt. It covered gravel, grass. That dog walked that trail. So I mean, there's some legitimacy to this stuff.
Yeah, I mean that sounds more believable than, I mean, I didn't know that cancer had a smell, or a different cancer had a smell. I'm just severely uneducated. That's why I'm so skeptical about it. But interesting.
Maybe
for
it's
sure.
all those Slim Jims you've been eating.
It could be.
Well, just another thing I looked into many years before I got this far. But
Sure.
just go to show you how long this has been on my radar. And
How long it's been on other people's radar. I mean, the idea is developing canines in order to, try to trace this out. I mean, that's
Yeah.
in my way of thinking, that's so far left field that, I mean, it's wild, but there's people out there thinking about it. So that's a positive.
Right.
It's a topic of conversation.
right.
So that's cool.
And when it comes to this cancer stuff, I want to say this. Firefighters are the world's worst for going to the doctor. I'm a prime example. We need to be aware of what's going on around us. Don't be the guy who gives the shirt off your back to everybody but won't do anything to take care of yourself. Do it for your family. Don't just do it for yourself. Do it for your family. These are the people that have a lot invested in you. And the more we can get the word out to folks to make them more aware, to get them to start taking more precautions, and perhaps more departments we can get on board, even if they could only do, if they've got a department of 100 people and it takes them 4 years doing 25 a year. If I can perfect this plan in Raleigh and let it be a model program for other departments to follow, man, that's huge here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. I'm going to see it through, and hopefully by August, we'll know exactly what the program looks like because it'll be running.
And it's right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
That's awesome.
I'm ready to see it come to fruition. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, that's great. What's the
I joked that you needed a hospital, but what are you going to do? Have just a doctor's office set up that the guys go to, or?
Okay, honestly, that part hasn't been worked out yet.
I got you.
So, and it's going to do with logistics. You got to figure, the size of our city. When our people come to get a physical, some of them are driving an hour almost because of traffic. Now, with no traffic conditions, it might be a 20, 25-minute commute from the far reaches. That hasn't been worked out yet. Whether we're going to go to them or whether we're going to set up a central location and say, okay, at such and such time, you report here and these people get their scan. That's small stuff. We can work that out in a matter of hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, the machine is portable. So for others who might be interested in doing something like this, who don't have the logistical challenges we do to get people moved around, just know it's portable. They can come set up anywhere in a private room.
Is the equipment portable to the extent that wherever you do your normal physicals and stuff like that, they can house the equipment, and then when it's time to do those scans, they can pull it out and do it. Say, you get in line, you do your chest X-ray. How often we do those? Every other year or something like that?
10 years.
Yeah, so every 5 years. So when your time comes around, just like when you get your chest X-ray done, it's the equipment's there, whether they use it every day or not. It's just slid into place and they do what they're supposed to do, then it's slid back out of the way. Is it that mobile, or is it needs a little more?
An 18-wheeler.
It is.
Right.
It is. And unfortunately, form is driving function for us right now. Our employee health center is the exact same footprint that it was when I started almost 36 years ago. Coincidentally, I also chair the city's safety and health oversight committee, and I work pretty closely with the city's health and safety office. And I have been pushing as hard as I can and trying to just throw out all the great reasons why we really need to expand this. Because for one, we have a full-time provider now. We actually have one of our nurses that's about to be a nurse practitioner. Certainly don't want to lose her. But we don't have a lot of exam rooms. So foreman's driving function, where yes, it would be great if we could leave it set up perfectly. Leave it set up constantly
Right.
at that location, and that room is just dedicated. But unfortunately, we just don't have enough rooms to do that. So we've got a couple of options. We've got some fire stations that were rebuilt, and the legacy station, we still own the property. We may wind up doing it there, or we may go to one of the newer stations where we do have some unused space, and we may dedicate a room and just leave it there. That way, stenographers not having to drag this stuff back and forth.
Sure. Yeah. Is it the manufacturer stenographer, or is it just any stenographer?
So they're actually going to supply the stenographer and the
Okay.
radiologist. Now, they already have agreements for that stuff.
Sure.
Listen, they'll do everything. The most expensive version would be you do nothing except somebody makes an appointment and tells you where to show up and when. That would be the most expensive. And then, of course, Siemens would handle that. That's just not cost effective. We have the spaces to do it. It's just a matter of logistically where and how do we want to utilize those spaces. And so when I whittled this thing down, I said, well, the really only things I'm lacking is a sonographer, the equipment, and a radiologist. Oh, and the storage. We had access to store. We have access to a storage repository, but they had one that our employee health center said was really good system. So we're going to go with that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Cost. I'm sure you're probably wondering, okay, what does it cost? And I have to look at my sheet every single time I do this, but there's a couple of different options for the equipment. There are two different units that will work, and because they both do the same job, one is mobile, the other one's not mobile. The one that's not mobile is a little more expensive, of course. So we're going with the cheaper version that's mobile, and that one is a $56,000 option. So you can buy it outright, or they will lease it to you, and it is a lease to own program. As I recall, the machine has about a 7-year, about a 10-year life, and you pay it off in about, I want to say it's 7 years you pay it off. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, you got several years there that the machine itself would be paid for. And there's a replacement program for machines that may have a problem where they'll under a lease they'll provide you a working machine if yours has stopped working. So yeah, that's beneficial, of course. So you don't have to stop doing your scans. But then there are a couple of different models here, and I think I got it out of order here. Let's see. Yeah, model 1 was a baseline scan, and that is if all they provide is a sonographer and radiologist is $250, and that's to scan all 3 areas of the body. And then if they have to provide the sonographer, the radiologist, and the equipment because you choose not to lease it or buy it outright, it's $274. So $24 more. So it's some options. There are some options here for a department to look at. Is it worth paying $24 more per scan, or is it worth just going in and buying it? We got so many people. In our opinion, it was worth. Well, we're not buying it. We're leasing it. Mm-hmm. We're leasing it. So that's the baseline scan model, and then option 2 over here was if you had to have a single protocol, not all 3 areas, that would be a 3 protocol scan. If you had to have a single protocol, it would be $200. And that pays for the sonographer and the radiologist. It's $224 if they had to provide the equipment. And very seldom would you have a dual protocol. It's either going to be 3 as a baseline scan or 1. But if you had a dual protocol, it would be $225 for the sonographer radiologist and $249 for the sonographer radiologist and the equipment. So
I'm actually kind of shocked that the prices are that.
Yeah, an MRI is astronomical, and then you have something like that. That's a fraction. Yeah.
It's very simple equipment. It doesn't require the exposure to any radiation. I mean, there's no risk to the person. And you think about what does $250 buy you today? Think about things you can buy. I can't even
One tank
buy
of fuel.
Yeah, thanks a lot. As far as I drove down here, $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
But $250 will probably won't even buy one tire on my F-250 right now.
Right.
$250, a scan that could potentially reveal something that I could get treatment for that could save my life or extend my life from what it would have been had I not gotten treatment. I mean, how do you put a price on that?
Yeah.
I'm just so thankful that, for one, I've got a boss that is incredibly supportive. Our city saw the value in this, and that it's something that they are willing to allow us to do long term. I really don't ever see it going away. I'm just really blessed to be in the position I'm in right now, and I think what I would like to see, what will fulfill me even more, is to see other cities ring my phone and say, "Hey, I heard about you on the podcast," or "A friend told me so and so." Hey, what do I need to do to get to the point you're at? Word's getting around about this thing you're talking about. What is this all about? Explain it to me. If my phone would start ringing, people would start, or your email would start blowing up, people start sending me stuff, I can get them to the step right below money. I can get you to where you can put your proposal together in a short amount of time, go to your city, and then get the money. And listen, there's always budget expansions anyway, so you missed this year's budget cycle. Well, if you're not a large department, like I said, we're only at $62,000. Let's say you go to your manager and you say, "I need $8,000 to do this percentage of my people this year." That's not a huge amount of money. And I can get you to the point where you can have that plan in place to go make that pitch, and I can do it very quickly.
When do you propose that we tell people to start calling you?
Oh boy.
Should we wait until after August?
Well, anytime really. I'm 24/7 as it is now, and for things that I'm very passionate about, man, I talk to people after hours all the time. Words are powerful, right? You can build people up, you can hurt people, or you can give them information that might just save somebody's life, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously I'm hoarse because I've been on the phone all day. It's just kind of what I do at work, and talking with different people. And I talked on the phone about the whole way down here, covering some stuff that I wasn't able to finish at work. I don't have a problem with spending time on the phone and telling the same story over and over to people. I don't mind that. So if you have an interest, and I would hope you would, reach out to me.
Yeah, it seems crazy not to.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm very blessed. I've got great people around me that support me and have helped point me in the direction of the right priorities. Like I said, I didn't have a person in this position before me that I could look to and kind of just continue what they were doing or tweak it a little bit. Started with nothing. I'm just very blessed to have that kind of support. And for those who have interest, I want to make it as easy as I can for them. Yeah.
Is there an email or something that we can put in the show notes?
Yeah.
I don't really think it's a great idea to probably blast your personal cell phone number out right now. You think you're on the phone a lot now.
Yeah.
Bold print on the bottom of the
Yeah. You can put Jerry. That's my first name. All right. No, not Jeremy. Jerry. So it's jerry.wilder@raleighnc.gov.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to put that in the show notes.
Yeah. If I don't get back to you quickly, just bear with me. It could be my email could be blowing up, but I generally get back to people, in the same day.
Sure.
So, I was going to say that I appreciate you guys asking me to come on this show to help spread the word about what I've done. This is not about me at all. I'm just the guy that was in the right place at the right time. As I said, having the right support. I appreciate you guys having me on here to be able to share what I've done, because if there are others who may be at that point where I was, where I just threw my hands up and said, I've done all I can do. I just don't know what else to do. I'm telling you, in 2 hours' time or less, I can have you at the point where you're ready to go talk to your manager to say, I need funding.
Yeah, we can tell your heart's in the right spot.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Steve?
Mr. Wilder, thanks for coming on the show.
It's Keith, man. Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Or
Jerry.
Jerry. Yeah.
No, it's been a pleasure having you on, sir.
Yeah.
We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, this
for
is
sure.
fun.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have an update for you, fall.
Yeah, we'll be in
See
touch.
how things are looking.
Yeah,
we'll
I
be in
want to follow
touch.
up. That'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing I did not mention. This is not just exclusive to North Carolina. As I said, they're doing it in Florida. I did meant to mention this earlier. Siemens is all over Southeast United States. So if you're out there in some other state somewhere, they're willing to work with you. If you don't pick up the phone, if you don't call, if you don't ask, you'll get 100% everything you don't ask for. But this company is widespread across the United States, and they want to help you out. This is a business that they seem to want to get into. And obviously, they're in business to make money. But
Sure.
the feeling that I get from the people that I'm working with, they genuinely see the value that it provides to firefighters who have these above average exposures and diagnoses. They genuinely want to be a part of good health care for us. So.
Yeah, a win-win exists. Yeah.
Yeah. The money aspect is small fish.
Yeah.
Every business has to make money.
Yeah.
You have to. So it makes sense. Cool. Well, Keith, we sure have enjoyed it, my sir.
Thanks again, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was a good time.
Absolutely. Get your people scanned.
That's right.
If you don't know how, get up with Keith.
Yeah,
He'll teach you how. And join your local IAFF.
that's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. What's up, gang? It's Matt from Primary Complete. We've been getting a lot of questions from folks wanting to know how they can support the show. Honestly, it's crazy to us that people are even interested in this. But to answer the question, there are several ways. The biggest way is whatever platform you choose to listen to the show, rate it and leave a comment. The more 5-star ratings we get and comments we get, the more our show is exposed on these platforms. Another is just talking to your friends. If you're sitting at the firehouse kitchen table and somebody shares a situation or something they're going through, and you can remember a guest that we had or a past episode they may benefit from hearing, just suggest it to them. Lastly, if you feel so inclined, there's a donation link on the Primary Complete podcast website. We can't possibly say thank you enough for all the love and support that you have sent our way. It's humbling to say the least, and we are continually grateful.